The rain is falling down. बाहिर चाहिँ अझ घाम लाग्छ नि हामी 9:30 भइसक्यो त्यही पनि घाम चाहिँ लाग्छ न पानी परिरहेछ नो म्यान
All this let's walk through the tactile process for how you can apply this four-step loop to every story you write moving forward. By the way, before I explain this, you can tell I absolutely love storytelling. To help you improve your storytelling and your content, I actually put this doc together, breaking down all the best storytelling structures that tend to work based on the research we've done on social media. Each one of these is built out as a plug-and-play template, so you can just take it and fill in the blanks, or feed this document into Claude or ChatGPT, save it as a skill, and it will just automatically improve your storytelling. It's completely free. My gift to you.
Wow.
Link below if you
Hello.
want. Alright, so
Good
now you
morning.
understand the science. You know how addiction works in the casino. But obviously, you're not running a casino. You're telling stories. So let me show you how this exact same loop works when you apply it to a narrative and how you can use it to tell better stories. The easiest way is to hear the same general story told two different ways. So first, I'm going to tell you the full story with no addiction loop, and then I'm going to retell it with the addiction loop, but I'm going to explain each step as we go, and you'll feel the difference immediately. Alright, here we go. This is the flat version. A prince's kingdom is in trouble. When he learns there's a valuable resource locked at the top of a tower that's being guarded by a dragon, he realizes he must go, so he rides to the tower, he confronts the dragon, he acquires the resource, he comes home, and the kingdom is saved. The end. The end. Now that was quick, but do you care about that story at all? Obviously not. You probably didn't even have enough time to get curious, you really weren't anticipating anything, you had no reason to buy in. And it's not because the core bones of that story are bad, it's because there was no loop running to hijack the chemicals in your brain to want to care. No stakes, no big question, no head fake, no rehook, nothing. That was a vending machine story. Now let me tell you the exact same story, a little more sauce, and I'm going to turn the addiction loop on, and I will call out each step in the flow as we do it. Alright, here we go. Once upon a time, there was a prince, and his kingdom was dying. A plague had been spreading for months across the country, and it had almost reached the town where his castle and his family were staying. The only cure for this plague is a flower that grows at the top of an ancient tower, buried away deep, deep in the mountains. But the tower is guarded by a dragon that hasn't been defeated in thousands of years. Every knight that has gone to try to defeat this dragon and get this flower has never come back. But the prince has to go. His father, the king, is begging him to do so. If he doesn't, everyone he loves will be dead by the end of the week. Now that was the stakes. And even though I already told you what was going to happen in the story the first time, you still kind of care. Not because I told you to care, but because I gave you a character with something to lose, a ticking clock, and a consequence if he failed. And by doing this, the brain just naturally turns on and locks in. It's been activated, and now the predictions are starting to run in your head for what might happen next. Okay, let's keep going in the story. The prince arrives at the base of the tower, and the dragon is massive, way bigger than anything he's ever seen, 10 times the size of what he thought. He has one sword, no armor, and no backup. How is he possibly going to get past this thing? Right, that is the big question. Now, I put that question in your head explicitly. I said the question, but either way, your prediction mechanism is now firing, and you're wondering what's going to happen. Maybe you think he finds a weak spot in the dragon's belly. Maybe you think he's going to outsmart the dragon somehow. Maybe you think he actually might lose. It's a dark story. He's going to die and he'll never come back. Whatever you predicted, you're now locked in until you figure out what the answer is. Because your brain has loaded in a question that it wants to resolve. That is the sustained dopamine drip. That anticipation, the wanting to know the answer. Okay, let's keep going back to the story. The prince draws his sword and starts approaching the dragon. But as he gets closer, he notices something. The dragon isn't attacking him. It's pulling away. It's scared. And then he sees there's a massive chain around the dragon's neck, and it's bolted to the base of a metal plate. The dragon isn't guarding the tower. It's a prisoner of the tower. So he puts his sword down, he walks up to the chain, and he breaks it. The dragon looks back at him, stretches its wings for what feels like the first time in centuries, and flies away. The path to the tower to get to the flower is now wide open. That right there is the head fake. You probably predicted a fight, or at least some way around the dragon, but instead you got a rescue, something you weren't expecting. And notice you didn't just feel confused. That clicked when I said it. Because it makes sense. There were clues. He was pulling away. He was scared. It's possible for that to have happened. That's what separates a great head fake from a cheap. A cheap surprise is just random. It comes out of nowhere. It doesn't have anything to do with the lead up, and it just doesn't make any sense. A great head fake is one that you would never have expected, but as soon as you hear it, you immediately understand why it's true. That prediction error, the head fake Now that the path is cleared, the prince starts walking towards the tower, and he starts climbing the stairs. He reaches the top floor, and the magical flower is just sitting there in the middle of the room. But standing next to it is the king, his father, the one who sent him on this mission in the first place. Now suddenly a new question just hit you. Wait, why was the king there? What does the king have to do with this? Did the dragon actually bring the king? How did he get there so fast? That's the rehook. Before your brain even finished the head fake that the dragon was a prisoner and not a guard, immediately we reopen a new loop by posing a new question you didn't see coming. One loop closed, the next loop opened at the same time. And now you're more invested than you were at the start. That is the addiction story loop. Stakes, the big question, the head fake, and the rehook on repeat over and over. And notice what just happened to you. I told you the first version, the flat version, the dragon, the prince, the castle, the flower, pretty basic. And you felt nothing. Your brain was on autopilot, complete vending machine story. But when I told the loop version, you probably leaned in. You made predictions for what would happen. You got surprised when it didn't. You got rehooked with a new question. Same characters, same setting, but a completely different neurological experience. And here's the thing, it doesn't matter whether the story's about a prince and a dragon, or the path for your business to get to $1 million, or some client story that went awry. This same loop works for every scenario. All you need are the stakes to make the person's brain care in the first place, a big question to force an initial prediction, a head fake reveal that breaks the initial expectation, and a rehook to start the next cycle again before the previous one ends. As long as that loop is happening, the person listening to the story chemically cannot disengage, because there's always an unresolved prediction that's consuming their attention. Now, the $1 million question is, how do you tactically use this in your own stories? Not a fairy tale, not a casino, but when you write your stories, what are the tactics that must be true to make those four pieces of the loop come alive? We're going to break that down right now. And by the way, if you like how I'm systematically walking this through, first theory with the casino, then a real example, then the tactics, I actually put together my full short-form content system in the same way. It covers how I come up with ideas, how I research them, how I write hooks, but most importantly, the actual monetization funnel that I use to turn views into dollars. And I explain it very clearly using this type of logic. If you want to get that full system, it's also completely free. You can get it at shortformsystem.co or at the link below. It'll make your content system way better. Alright, so now you know the science and you've seen the loop in action for some fairy tale type story. This last part is going to be way more tactical and less theoretical. I'm going to walk through each of the 4 steps in the loop and give you the tactical playbook for how you can use this in your content. Whether you're making YouTube videos, shorts, writing emails, tweets, or even talking to a customer on a sales call, these tactics work every time. Alright, let's start with the stakes. Now, stakes is the simplest step in the loop. It's the one people mess up the most, and they mess it up by skipping it entirely. You only need 3 things to make the stakes matter for anyone in any story. 1, a character someone can root for. 2, something at risk. And 3, urgency. Now, character doesn't have to mean a fictional person. It could be you. It could be your client. It could be, I was talking to some creator the other day. As long as the viewer can picture a real human in a real situation, you've got your character. Something at risk means there's a consequence if things go wrong. I was about to lose my biggest client, or the whole launch was on the line, because the brain needs to know what failure looks like so it can start predicting if something will succeed or not. Now, urgency, the third piece, is the multiplier. Saying within a week hits harder than saying eventually. Saying the call was in 2 hours hits harder than saying the call was later in the day. If you add a ticking clock and some urgency, it compresses the stakes and makes the brain predict faster. Now, here's the thing most people don't realize. You don't need to be dramatic about setting the scene to build the stakes. Stakes don't mean life or death. They just mean personally relevant for your ideal viewer. For example, I had 48 hours to figure out why our paid budget wasn't working, or I was going to blow through the whole thing. That's an example of stakes. Nobody's dying, but if you're a business owner and you care about paid spend, well, that taps into a real scenario with a real character, real stakes, and real urgency that you've experienced. So the tactic is very simple. Before you start your story, the viewer has to know what is at risk, who it's happening to, and why it matters right now. If the answer to any of those is confusing or not apparent, before you start the story, you need to establish those to build better stakes. Alright, the second step of the loop is the big question. And the big question is where content goes from decent to addictive. The mistake people most often make here is they're being way too vague. They say something crazy happened, or you're not going to believe it, or things were about to change. Those kind of statements don't prompt big questions. They're kind of empty teasers. The viewer's brain won't be able to predict what happens because you haven't given them enough specific information for them to make a guess. Now remember, if they don't predict what's going to happen, well then the head fake won't hit because it has nothing to contrast against. The setup for a great big question gives the viewer just enough information to make a prediction, but not too much to overwhelm them. That's the sweet spot you're going for. Here's an example of this in practice. So I get on the call with my client, and within 30 minutes, she tells me something that completely changes my strategy for the next 6 months. Now, as a listener or a viewer, your brain is running. What did she say? Was it a complaint? Was it some new trend that nobody knows about? You start asking yourself those questions and subconsciously forming the prediction, and now you're locked in. If you compare that with something like, I got a call with a client and it went well, there's nothing to predict there, so the question never happens, and there's nothing to head fake against. So the tactic is this: whenever you're about to reveal something important in your content, stop, back up, and before the reveal, give the viewer more context so they can make a prediction before you give that answer. This will pop a question that your answer will then head fake against. Not every moment in the story needs one of these big questions, but every great story has a massive big question towards the beginning that viewers will chew on. And the earlier you load it in, the longer that dopamine can drip in before the answer is revealed.
Life is unexpected, dude. कतिखेर के हुन्छ भन्नै सकिँदैन.
fake comes out of nowhere with no setup or connection to everything else. It might be shocking, but it just doesn't make sense based on what you've already shared. When it doesn't click, the viewer won't get that dopamine spike because they don't feel the aha. They just get frustrated and confused. So the great rule of thumb for a head fake is this: figure out what a normal viewer should believe, what they should be predicting based on what you've already said, and then contrast against it. Think about how a magician works. They don't just pull a rabbit out of the hat in the first minute. They show you the hat, they show that it's empty, they tell you look over here, and then boom, they pull the rabbit out of the hat over here. When the rabbit appears, you're surprised, but the logic checks out, and you know you missed something that was clearly there. That is what a good head fake looks like. So here's the practical framework for building head fakes. Step 1, figure out what the viewer will naturally predict based on the context. Step 2, deliver an answer or reveal that contrasts what they believe, but is clearly logical in a way that they can accept to be true right away. Alright, the last step, number 4, is the rehook. And the rehook is the simplest tactic in the loop, but it's the thing that separates the good storytellers from the great ones. Because the rehook isn't just about what you say, it's when you say it. Remember the casino metric, time per hand is everything. The casino's entire goal is to decrease the time between dopamine hits. Your goal as a storyteller is the exact same thing. So the moment the head fake lands and the viewer is trying to figure out what happened, that's when you open a new question with a rehook. And here's what this sounds like in practice. And that's when she told me she was doubling her budget, which would have been amazing if I hadn't just signed an exclusivity agreement with her competitor the night before. That's a rehook. The head fake, she's doubling her budget, is resolved, but then a new loop, I just signed an exclusivity agreement with her competitor, opens on the other side. Compare that with something like this. She doubled her budget, and that was a great call. Anyways, now I'm on to, see how much dead air there is between closing that and then transitioning into the next? You want it to be much faster. Phrases that make rehooks work and feel like connective tissue are things like this, which would have been great except. But here's the problem with that, and that's what I realized, which is exactly why, each of these phrases closes a loop and opens another one in the same breath. So the tactic really is this: go to the points in your story where you feel like you close down a loop and you're going to begin a new section. Those are the danger zones for dropping attention. Right at that moment, you need some rehook, some new question, some new complication, some new implication, something new to re-trigger attention. Think of it like a relay race. The baton has to transition between runners when they're both moving. If runner 1 comes to runner 2 and they were at a dead stop, it would lose all momentum. Storytelling works in the exact same way. Alright guys, that's all I've got for this video. As a recap, we broke down the 4-step addiction loop, the neurochemical process that really powers all the most addictive stories you've ever heard. And the best part is, none of what I walked through requires you to be a super gifted storyteller. It's not really a talent, it's just a formula. 4 steps running on repeat, backed by the exact same neuroscience that casinos use to get billions a year from addicted gamblers. As always guys, I'm just trying to give you the most useful, non-obvious, outside-the-box stuff that will help you improve your content. My goal is to help 1 million people make $1 million from content. That's $1 trillion in market value, and I really want you to be one of the next ones that does it. If you're a business owner and you're trying to use content to grow your business, to monetize and grow something, this will be one of the best channels you could possibly watch on YouTube. So if you found this video valuable or you just enjoyed it, consider subscribing and make sure to check out all of the free stuff I have in the description. I'm literally just giving the sauce away when it comes to content and everything you can do to grow faster. If you want another video on storytelling that breaks down something completely different, this is one of my favorites that I've ever made. People loved it. I'll put it up here if you guys want to watch it. Alright, we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Today we're talking about the social media algorithm. If you want to get more views with less effort, it's critical you understand how the algorithms actually work. And once you learn this, I guarantee you will never look at content the same way again. In this video, I'm going to break down how social algorithms work, why they pick certain videos to push over others, and the specific things you can do to make them prioritize your content. Now, this information is based on a ton of outlier data and comments made by the Instagram CEO himself. So this is the latest and greatest for what's actually working right now. If you just It's matching people with content. If it does a good job of this matching, you're going to keep watching and stay. But if it starts doing a bad job and it shows you stuff you don't want to watch, then you're going to leave. It sounds simple, but this is how social algorithms work in a nutshell. Now here's why this matters for you. If you want to hijack the algorithm and make it push your video more, all you have to do is help it make better matches with your content. So in this video, I'm going to explain
So
exactly
bye
how
bye.
to do
I'll
that.
see you in the
And
next
this really is the
video.
highest leverage
Till then,
combo
stay
hack
safe
you can
and make
ever
your dream
learn.
life better.
Here's how
Because
this
you know what life
matching